For years, Whoopi Goldberg built her reputation as one of the most outspoken voices on American television. She was the woman who would say what others wouldn't, the one who held powerful people accountable, the one who looked her audience in the eye and told them the truth even when the truth was uncomfortable. That was the image. That was what millions of loyal View fans believed about her. Then, the DOJ released the Epstein files, and everything Whoopi told her audience started falling apart in real time. This is the story of how one of the most powerful women in daytime television got caught in a lie so public, so documented, and so impossible to walk back that even Disney couldn't protect her from it. To understand why this moment hit so hard, you have to understand what Whoopi Goldberg actually said before those documents were released. For months leading up to the DOJ drop, the Epstein files were one of the most talked about stories in media. Names were being speculated, rumors were flying, and the pressure on public figures to address their proximity to Jeffrey Epstein was building across every platform. During that period, Whoopi Goldberg did something very specific. She got in front of her audience on The View and stated clearly that she had never been mentioned in the Epstein files, never had any affiliation with his circle, never any connection whatsoever. She said it directly. She said it more than once, and her co-hosts sat beside her and let the statement stand. That mattered, because The View isn't just a talk show. For a huge portion of its audience, it functions as a trusted source. When Whoopi Goldberg says something, millions of people believe it. She's been on that stage for decades. She's Oscar-winning, Emmy-winning, a cultural institution. Her credibility was the whole foundation of that denial. So when the files came out and her name appeared in them, the collapse wasn't just about what was in the documents. It was about the distance between what she told her audience and what the documents actually said. That gap is what destroyed the trust. The moment it all unraveled happened right on set. After the DOJ released the full documents and Whoopi's name started circulating on social media, producers at The View made a decision that was either very brave or very calculated, depending on how you look at it. They had Whoopi address it live on air with the actual document in front of her. The clip that came out of that segment spread everywhere within hours. Whoopi and her co-hosts sitting at the table, going through the pages, trying to explain the context of her name appearing in the files after she had publicly denied any connection. Sunny Hostin sat to her left looking visibly uncomfortable. Joy Behar sat to her right doing the same. The whole panel looked like it had been caught completely flat-footed. And here's the thing about that moment that made it so damaging. It wasn't a gotcha from a political opponent. It wasn't an ambush interview. It was their own set, their own cameras, their own show. The exposure happened in the one place where Whoopi was supposed to be completely in control, and it unraveled anyway. The audience didn't forget. They started leaving. Longtime View viewers, the ones who watched every single day, who had stuck with the show through years of controversy, began tuning out in numbers that ABC couldn't ignore. This wasn't a temporary dip. This was loyal fans deciding they had been misled, and that's a very different kind of ratings problem. You can recover from a bad news cycle. You cannot easily recover from a broken trust with the people who believed in you most. But here's where the story gets bigger, because what happened inside ABC and Disney after that clip went viral is just as revealing as the clip itself. Within days, Disney's board of directors was on an emergency call. Incoming CEO Josh D'Amaro was brought in alongside current CEO Bob Iger. The agenda wasn't subtle. Assess the damage, decide what to do with Whoopi Goldberg, and figure out how to stop the ratings from getting worse. What came out of that call was a 10-episode suspension scattered on and off throughout the month of March. Now, to understand why that number matters, here's the context. Sunny Hostin's suspension earlier this year was 6 episodes. Joy Behar's suspension in December was a handful of appearances. Both of those were considered significant at the time. Whoopi's suspension is longer than both of them. Disney escalated, and the reason they escalated wasn't because of one controversial comment. It was because they were looking at viewership data that told them exactly how bad the damage was. When Whoopi was told about the suspension, she didn't fight it. No statement, no pushback through her team, no leaked frustration to the press. She accepted it, and the people close to the situation are reading that acceptance as relief. Every time Whoopi appears on screen right now, she creates another opportunity for the clip to resurface. Every appearance is another risk of another viral moment. The suspension gives her distance from the cameras, and she seems to understand that's exactly what she needs. Her co-hosts do not feel the same way. Sunny Hostin and Joy Behar are reportedly furious with Disney over this decision. Their position is that the company is caving, that they're folding under outside pressure, letting critics and political opponents dictate who gets to speak and who gets silenced. They're framing the suspension as corporate cowardice, and they're not keeping that frustration quiet inside the building. But there's a problem with that framing, and it's a big one. Disney isn't suspending Whoopi Goldberg because of political pressure. They're suspending her because the show is hemorrhaging the exact audience it built its entire business model around. The View without its loyal daily viewers isn't the View anymore. It's just another morning program. And that audience didn't leave because of politics. They left because they watched someone they trusted tell them something that wasn't true. And it doesn't stop there. Because Disney isn't just suspending Whoopi. They're also telling her to stop defending herself on air entirely. Think about what that means for a second. One of the most outspoken personalities in daytime television, someone who has built a 30-year career on saying exactly what she thinks, is being told by her network to stay quiet about the biggest story surrounding her name. Because every time she opens her mouth to explain the Epstein situation, it creates another clip. The original denial surfaces again. The document gets shared again, the moment on set gets replayed again. It's a loop that feeds itself every single time she engages with it. And Whoopi, by nature, wants to engage. She's not someone who goes quietly, but Disney's calculation is clear. Silence is the only thing that has any chance of letting this fade. Every word she says about it makes the story louder and longer. So now you have a panel in open conflict with its own network. Whoopi is being managed. Sunny and Joy are furious about how Whoopi is being managed, and ABC is caught between a host who created a crisis and co-hosts who think the response to that crisis is the real problem. That is not a stable working environment. That is a show running on tension and old momentum while everyone quietly wonders how much longer it can hold together. Alongside the suspension, Disney is also rolling out cost-cutting measures across the View's production. Fewer resources, tighter budgets, a leaner operation overall. Nobody inside the company is saying it out loud, but the signal is unmistakable. They are not investing in this show's future right now, they are managing it. There's a significant difference between a network that believes in a property and a network that is maintaining one while it figures out what to do next. That distinction matters because it tells you everything about where The View sits inside the Disney portfolio right now. A year ago, they would have circled the wagons around Whoopi and absorbed the hit. They would have issued a statement, made a few appearances, and ridden it out. Instead, they pulled her off air, cut costs, and told her to stop talking. That's not protection. That's damage control from a distance. Disney has run a version of this playbook before. The temporary removal, the quiet return, the hope that the news cycle moves on before audiences remember what started it. It has worked in the past. The question is whether it works this time, because the Epstein files don't disappear. They're federal documents. They're permanently public and permanently searchable. Every new person who discovers that clip of Whoopi at the table with those pages in front of her is encountering the denial and the exposure for the first time. There's no statute of limitations on that moment. The loyal View audience isn't angry because Whoopi's name appears in a document. People get mentioned in documents for all kinds of reasons. They're angry because she told them she wasn't in it, and then they found out she was. The lie isn't in the document. The lie is in what she said before the document dropped. A 10-episode suspension doesn't address that. It doesn't close that gap. It doesn't give her audience a reason to trust her again. It just removes her from the frame for a few weeks while Disney waits to see if the temperature drops. Whether it does is something we'll know soon enough. But one thing is already clear. The version of The View that existed before those files came out is not the version that exists today. The audience that walked away didn't leave because of a bad week. They left because something they believed turned out not to be true. And in television, that's the hardest thing in the world to recover from.